Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, a reissue of a vintage chorus pedal from Boss. Let's get started. Today I'm joined by Don Carr from here at Sweetwater. Don, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Mitch.
Appreciate you helping me out. And we're checking out the CE-2W, the new Waza version of the Boss CE2 chorus. Boss originally introduced the chorus effect inside their jazz chorus amplifiers. It's a very cool effect. There was basically one dry speaker with no effect. Then the other speaker was modulated with the chorus effect. It created a beautiful, lush stereo effect.
Right, especially with both of them being side by side.
Right. The combination of the two is a really cool effect. Now, they released that in a pedal format in the CE1, which was the original chorus pedal. Then they came out in 1979 with the CE2. Now, the CE2 went through several different revisions. There was the Made in Japan version with the black label about 1979 to 1984. They changed it to a green label, then it was manufactured in Taiwan. And it ended up being manufactured through about 1991. So what Boss has done with the Waza version is they've combined the sound of that original Made in Japan CE2 chorus pedal along with a switch that gives us the original CE1 sound as well as the original CE1 vibrato effect.
So with the CE-2W, you've got stereo outs, which is really cool. That's like the original CE1. And the CE2, the original CE2 was not stereo.
Right, the original CE2 was mono only. Right. The CE1 had a dry out and a wet out. This has the same thing, but you can also apply that to the CE2 sound. So it gives us a new sound that we didn't have with the original pedal.
Nice.
The other thing that's been improved here is it has the new Waza buffer in it. And it's a nice sparkling clean buffer, very uncolored, so it gives you a very natural sound. Some of the early CE2, some of the early Boss pedals had a different buffer in them. They weren't quite as clean sounding, a little bit more colored.
Right. Little different in the top end and the mids for sure.
Right, this gives you a nice sparkling chorus effect. Let's check out the sounds in this pedal. We'll begin by turning the pedal off. We're playing through a couple of 65 Deluxe Reverb reissues, and Don has a Music Man Cutlass guitar here with single coil pickups. So this is our sound without the effect. Now we'll engage the effect with the rate and the depth controls both set to about 12 o'clock, and we're in the CE2 setting. That gives us a really rich, chiming, sparkling tone.
Absolutely.
Now we'll switch over to the CE1, which is the original chorus effect, the same thing that was found in the original jazz chorus amplifiers. So Don, how would you describe that tone compared to the CE2?
Warmer. Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely different in the mids and a little rounder on the highs.
Right. The bottom end seems a little different.
Yeah.
And I think the modulation is slightly different as well. It seems just a little bit wider, and I'm sure that's because they had that original stereo effect in mind when they created the CE1.
Right. As opposed to a combined mono like the CE2.
Right. Now we switch over to the final setting, and that is the CE1 in the vibrato position. Now this gives us pitch modulation out of one channel and a dry signal out of the other. And we can emphasize that even more by turning up the depth. If we turn that down, we'll get a more subtle effect. We can slow it down a little bit as well.
Yeah, it almost has a tremolo feel to it, you know.
Yeah, that cyclical pitch vibration. If you push it too far, it starts to sound out of tune, which you'd expect with an effect like that. But when you kind of dial it back, especially in stereo, you get a really wide spread with two amplifiers like this. So just for fun, we have an original CE2 chorus pedal here. This is one that I bought in 1982, just before I went on the road with my first band, and chorus was really becoming big at that time. Everything in the 80s had that.
Yeah, man.
The CE2 was it at that time. And you can see this one has traveled some miles. It still has blue tape from some gig, I can't remember where, and lots of duct tape residue on this one.
Yeah, good old scars and all that good
exactly.
stuff.
It's missing the label, but it was a black label originally, black label, black screw. So it was one of the very early ones, about 1982, as I mentioned, about 3 years into production. So let's plug this in. Now this is going to be mono only, so we'll be hearing it through one amplifier. Let's begin by listening to this original CE2 with the effect bypassed. Now Now right off the bat, I can hear a difference there compared to the earlier dry tone that we had.
Exactly. That's that buffer thing that you were talking about.
Right. It seems to be making the mid-range a little more cloudy, a little darker on top. And any two of these CE2 pedals from this era are going to sound a little bit different. They're not going to be totally consistent. The components inside age, and the pedals are a little different. There's a trim pot inside that can be set, and so there are some parameters there that are going to make these vary a little bit. But this is pretty representative of what a CE2 sounded like bypassed. Now we'll engage the effect. This is actually the third foot switch I've had in this unit. I've worn out 2 switches completely with all the miles I put on it, but it's still working great. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Now we'll switch over to the new CE-2W. I'm hearing a bit of difference there.
Yeah.
I think this is a little cleaner, has a little less coloration in the mid-range, doesn't have that cloudiness. The top end is a little bit more open.
Right, but it has the same modulation pattern though.
Right. If you're listening to the chorus effect, the chorus effect is the same. I think what you're hearing there is the older circuitry in the original one, as well as, again, the changes in that much cleaner buffer that's now in the CE-2W.
Yeah, Mitch, one of the other differences I noticed is that the original CE2 drives the amp a little differently. The mid-range is different, so it pushes just a little harder on it.
Right. And again, that's kind of that part of that sparkliness that's coming through here in that little bit more open tone. And of course, the foot switch works on this one.
Right.
So that's a big difference as well. Yeah. So while we have this set up in mono, we've been listening to the CE2 setting. Let's switch over to the CE1 in mono. And here's the vibrato effect in mono. If you're looking for that vintage Boss effect with some extra versatility, the added stereo outputs, the CE1 mode, the CE1 vibrato mode, the CE2W is a great choice. With the Waza buffer, it's clean sounding, it's open sounding, has a lot of sparkle. This is a great sounding chorus pedal that's going to add that vintage analog tone to your rig. Thanks, Don, for coming in. We appreciate the great playing there, demonstrating the pedal, and also your insights into the tones that we're hearing here.
Well, thanks, Mitch. It was a lot of fun, man. Cool pedal, definitely.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.